What's happening, guys? Timeless being here. Thought I would do a quick market update given the volatility this week. So I thought I'd just provide some commentary on how things have transpired thus far, and where I think price is potentially going into the week to come. Before I continue this video, just want to give a shout out to the sponsors, Prime XBT. I've attached the links in the description below. But if you're interested in trading sort of various legacy pairs, your forex pairs, as well as your base crypto pairs, have a look at the links below. You'll be privy to a 50% deposit bonus, and there is no KYC. I've been using this exchange for a while now, and I've never had any issues with lag. So yeah, if you're interested, check them out. You know the drill. Right, so just zooming out into the weekly time frame, I think this is the most relevant time frame to sort of, get any meaningful insight at the moment. You can see I've designated this sort of blue box area here. And this goes back to, the beginning of the year in January, where we had this sort of consolidation after we pierced and broke the 20K all-time high. We had this massive move into this region, consolidated. Tesla, Elon Musk announces their acquisition, and we had this big move to 60K. Um, we all know what happened up here, redistributed, so to speak, and then broke down. Um, what's interesting, though, is if you look at this, even though we've been going sideways for a while since May, not really done a lot, have we? We're sort of crabbing, so to speak, and we still hold this blue box territory. So for me, as long as the blue box territory is being held, I think you just have to assume that this range will continue for longer, and you just need to keep playing it as such. What is interesting to note, though, that was the start of the week that sort of precipitated a bit of fear, was if you look at this candle, this weekly candle from the 18th of January, I believe the close was, 32,250, give or take, around there, depending on the exchange. And you can see here, we finally got a close below the blue box territory, which is synonymous with the close down here. And I understand from a price action perspective why that was cause for concern, because that is a break in, market structure. So I see the justification to expect downside. Um, Personally, though, I think that this is gearing up the way things are looking on the weekly, that this was a pretty substantial bear trap where we got a lot of breakout traders that was anticipating continuation, getting trapped into the lows. And I also think it probably triggered some higher time frame algorithms that are predicated on, pivot points and weekly closes. So as it stands, this is a pretty substantial weekly candle formation at the moment where price pushed all the way below this area here, and now we're back in the blue box region. So look, not to speak in absolutes, the market is subject to randomness. Anything can happen between now and the weekly close tomorrow in 24 hours. But, I think it's just important to understand what's happening so far. And for me, on the balance of probabilities, as long as we close in and around this region, I truly think that we're likely to traverse the upper echelons of the range. So I think 36K is a massive pivot in the market. I think get above that, I think we likely teleport to 40K. As you can see, these wicks up here likely stops from shorts up there. I could see something like this happen, and then back into the range. That said, given the given the volatility in the lack of volatility, in the market, and the compression of this range, the break from balance could be real. So I think I invite everyone here listening to this to have some sort of gauge of expected norms of volatility and to be able to sort of shift gears if you start to see something out of the norm. Because the likelihood is you don't want to be fading something that's, 4 to 5 times ATR of a given, rotation, because the likelihood is that's probably the real move happening, and you don't want to be caught like a deer in the headlights, because when Bitcoin moves, it moves very fast. And I know a lot of people are getting tired of the lack of movement and the sluggishness and pace of this market, but I do think we are on the precipice of a pretty substantial move. So if you had to ask me gun to head, I think that we're likely going to take out these stops here, but I've always had my sort of sights on the mid 40K region. If you can see, you can go back. I'm not going to give a synopsis, historical overview of what's happened in the previous cycles. You can do that yourself. But you can see like price doesn't just go down in a straight line. I think a lot of people in bear markets in particular, it's a little bit more gray and quite difficult technically to trade. But very rarely do you just see, price like just go like this and then consolidate for a little bit and then nuke again. Likelihood is you're going to see some sort of psyop price action, build up stops on both sides, liquidity hunt, etc. I mean, you have to remember, even in 2018, as anemic as that the bounces became towards the end there, we got some pretty substantial bounces of 30, 35, 40% out of the 6K floor. So would it be completely out of the ordinary to see Bitcoin sort of mean revert to 45, 50K? In my opinion, no, because we haven't actually seen that. If you've been following me on Twitter, there's two schools of thought right now. Some people very, very openly bearish, saying that this is, the beginning of a multi-year bear market. People talking about 18K, 16K. Personally, I don't feel I can talk about that right now. What I'm expecting is pretty simple. I think that we're going to see a sizable mean reverting bounce to, the mid 40K region. Um, what happens there, we'll have to see. Are we going to make a, potential? Is it going to be a trap and make a sort of lower high, sell off, and then come back down into the range? Actually would not be shocked with that as a scenario, but we have to sort of wait and see. But till then, I think calling bull market continuation or the beginning of a colossal bear market is a bit premature. So uh, all we can do is sort of just wait for further confirmation as sort of price continues to materialize over the course of the next few weeks and months. Um, I just want to highlight something on this week why I was quite bullish into this low. I got long at around 31K this week and I had my validation at 30K. In hindsight, I think I got in a little bit too early, but my idea around the trade I don't think is nullified just yet, and I'll show you why. Sorry, excuse me. Yeah. So this week, this is what I was actually looking at in real time on my chart. And this is, when I got stopped out, I had to make a very quick decision whether I wanted to get back in. I don't typically endorse you chasing trades, particularly after a loss, but I had quite a lot of conviction to cause, so I actually did get back in here at the lows, and the reason was, if you see how this area has sort of been highlighted, this right here is just tracking futures basis. My very good friend Biz General, absolute legend, created this indicator, and so it's just looking at your long dated futures contracts, um, and you can see here in this sort of this green highlighted region here, basically all your futures contracts on Deribit, OKX, OP, Binance, with the exception of FTX, actually, everything went into backwardation. And this was the most aggressive read that I've seen in this entire range. So, couple that with the way general sentiment was on Twitter, I was pretty, confident in getting into a position there. Just to touch bases, a lot of people are looking at funding right now. I think it is a bit of a meme. Uh, a meme in the sense that people are expecting it to be actionable in the now, and I don't think it is. I think it's more of a reflection of crowded positioning or potentially crowded positioning over time. So you can see right here, once again, funding's gone extremely negative. If you're trying to be short right now, you're paying what, 4 basis points on your coin margin contracts on like Bybit, but even on your linear contracts, right? It's super expensive to be short right now. So, longs are essentially getting paid to even contemplate upside right now, which for me is a really, really crazy thing to view, because I think it's just indicative of the lack of positive sentiment in the environment right now. Touching on that, look, we're all very aware with this crypto fear and greed index, also a bit of a meme. I'm not sure exactly how the index is derived per se, but I just want to point you out to something quite interesting. If you look here, right, this is this week when we broke 20 into the 29K floor. This is what the Corona crash, and this here is like the after 6K floor was lost in that 2018 bear market. So I just want to give this provides some context of where we stand. I think it's safe to say there's a lot of general fear in the market, and you know, anecdotally speaking, this is not to point fingers or bash any of professionals and traders on CT, but I want to ask you objectively on Monday when you rolled into Twitter, would you say that the sentiment was overly bearish or overtly bearish? I would say, based on my sample size of individuals I follow, I would say yes. I follow 1,500 people, so I think it's quite distribution sensitive. And I would say I saw a lot of charts with arrows pointed in the 25K region, people talking about breaks of 20K. So seeing the inverse charts saying that this was going to moon. So look, this is not to bash or anything, but I think it's a good reminder this week. Whenever you have mass sort of consensus over an expected outcome, especially in Bitcoin, there's a high degree that it's likely to front run that level or it's just going to nuke through it. So, you know, it's not to say I don't think 25 or 26K cannot be, cannot come in the future. I'm just saying until the range actually breaks, I think it's a bit premature to fantasize over those prices. That's just my opinion. Um, Before we continue, yeah, I just want to allude yourself this week. Yeah, we also had a bit of volatility in the legacy markets, which also sort of helped sort of precipitate a bit of a spill in Bitcoin. But if you look at this chart, I mean, it looks absolutely ridiculous, doesn't it? It's you have the Corona crash here, and it's done nothing but just stair step up. And this weekly candle was phenomenal, another weekly all-time high. There's a bit of uncertainty in the air right now. What is the Fed stance? Are they going to start tapering asset purchasing? Are interest rates going to be, raised? Look, that's definitely something to have on your radar as we continue to drift into the months to come, because, fundamentally speaking, I think that is an actual catalyst that could drive Bitcoin price down. So I'm woke to the fact that, Bitcoin is now in bed with legacy markets and it's in Wall Street. So while the correlation has been pretty non-existent up to now, I think in a mad scramble, in a liquidity crisis, and everyone's scrambling for dollar, I think you'd see that, Bitcoin is correlated to overall levels of global liquidity. So it would be very, very naive and frankly quite irresponsible as a trader right now in this current market to ignore that. So while we're on that, I think just want to, before I wrap this up, next Wednesday we got a Fed statement, so FOMC statement. So I think that's something to have definitely pinned on your calendar. Um, on top of that, we're going to be having some pretty massive earnings from your big tech stocks, like heavyweights like Apple, Microsoft, and Google. So definitely keep that on your radar going into next week. But yeah, if I had to, I still think that Bitcoin's looking pretty constructive here. And the fact that we're holding around the lower bounds of the range again, we've taken out 32K. I think we're going to take 36K, and the likelihood is we're probably going to go to 40K. But we'll see how it goes into the week. Naturally, everything I say is not financial advice. It's just my opinion. It's for education and entertainment purposes. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna wrap it off. It's the weekend. I'm gonna go and unwind and just relax a bit. But you'll be hearing from me in due course. Till then, have a good one. Trade safe.